And so are we living up to the truth of what we said we were going to do to our employees? If we're not, we need to come back in alignment. And literally, I had just recently, I had one of my clients go and apologize to their employees and say, you know what? I spun out of control. I spun out of alignment with our mission, vision, value. I want to apologize to you, and we want to get back in alignment. And these are the things that we're going to do. And I got to tell you that I've never seen a group of employees rally around their employer more. One, because they took the wind out of the sail of something for them to whine about. You know, it's a really good conversation at the water cooler about, well, you know, they say this, but they're doing that, right? So he took the wind out of the sails with that. And two, he owned up to it. He took accountability. He took responsibility, and everybody went, it's okay. We're there. We're going to do this with you. And they came up together collectively with what they wanted to do to repair what was broken. And so how beautiful is that? His retention right now, beautiful. It's 100%.
Well, and I especially liked, I was going to ask you, and you kind of stole my thunder, but I'm
sorry.
Really like how about getting those people involved, right? I think we're human, right? So we gotta allow ourselves, if we're human, we gotta allow ourselves mistake and forgiveness, right? But then once you have the forgiveness, you need that help to kind of repair and replenish and you know, kind of recalibrate to what you committed to. But you said he or she got their employees involved. And tell me a little bit about that, because I'm sure there's a lot that goes into that, because that's not an easy conversation, right? And it means, I'm guessing you have to be pretty open to hear what other people want to say around that.
Well, yeah, listen, none of us have all the answers. Even think of the smartest person that you know. I know it's me for you, Vince, but whatever. No, think of the smartest person you know, and they don't have all the answers. They may know where to look for it. That's a key. My dad always said to me, you don't have to have all the answers. You just know you have to know where to get them, or you have to have people around you who know it. So that's a good thing. But the reality is that they recognized it. The individual, the owner recognized that they didn't have all the answers. And by bringing in the employees, you have to be prepared to hear things that you're not happy to hear about. But that's the importance and the advantage of having feedback. That's an element of feedback that allows you to get to the next step, to have that collaborative moment. But if you're not open to hear, hey, you didn't do the right thing, and if you're not open to having that hard conversation and listening it, then you're off your values anyway. And you're going to find that you're going to lose employees because, again, you're not open to growing. So you're going to get stayed stuck. Have you ever worked with people who stay stuck? They like it where they are. It works for me. There's no reason to change. You know, you get that kind of thing going on. And yeah, it does work for you, and that's absolutely fine. But it goes back to a phrase they used to use when I worked at a town. The employees would say to me all the time, well, this is how we've done it all along. Okay, humor me. Let's just change it up. You know, let's do it a different way. But this is how we've always done it. We change it up. So we open up the communication to the employees. And that particular employer was courageous and brave to step out of his comfort zone, to be able to take that information back and say, okay, let's do this together. Let's collaborate. That to me is courage. That to me is the definition of bravery and courage, because it takes a lot to be able to acknowledge that you've made a mistake and to take the steps to allow other people to come in and give you their advice. Now, did we do everything that all the employees said? No. But we were able to implement a large majority of them. I mean, you're always going to get that Weisenheimer who asks for the world. So that just happens. But they were realistic, and we actually broke it down. It was one of those conference room moments where we had papers stuck to the wall and we were writing down what everybody said, and then we went back and revisited. And so how achievable is this? How are we going to do this? What do you think about it? And some of the things were so time consuming that the employees figured out they don't have time to do that. When are we going to do this? So we didn't discard it, we shelved it.
But sometimes allowing people to work through things, they actually kind of reach the right conclusion. But not actually, but they do reach the right conclusion and recognize not all things are doable. While they're good and they're aspirational, they're not always doable. So it's acceptable then that we may not include that in our final output, our output or outcome, what we're trying to achieve. So I think I want to combine this, and maybe this is a good question to give us a pause, but so that's being reactive in the situation. But the question I would ask you is, about being proactive where there isn't a problem, where you're not hearing things. But I'm gonna say, if it ain't broke, break it, right? What do good companies do that are doing well, or what do good entrepreneurs do that are doing well to make sure that they're not missing anything? So maybe that's kind of the second half of the conversation.
I love it. And at this point, I'm going to say you're listening to Healthy Lifestyle with Anne and Vince Perrotta, and we're going to take a short little break. And when we come back, let's address that question, and we'll have more talk about retention and how do we maneuver in business these days during this crazy life that we're having right now. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Healthy Lifestyle with Anne and
Vince Perrotta.
If you would like to be a guest or lift up your business, product, or not-for-profit, or if you have a question or comment, we would love to hear from you. Email us at healthylifestylewithla@gmail.com. That's healthylifestylewithla@gmail.com. How'd I do, Vince?
That was much better. I like that.
Thank you so much. And by the way, I am a business coach and strategist, empowering, educating, and igniting people to take action with jet propulsion and monetize their message. I have developed a proven 3-step system that will provide a strategy, make it easier for visionary entrepreneurs like yourselves to take action. Activating behavioral changes, I show you exactly how to define who you are in order to reach your personal and professional goals, from disrupting limiting beliefs to cultivating confidence to mastering communication skills to the ultimate, which is architecting actionable plans. I look forward to working with people and taking them from confusion to clarity in their lives and businesses while aligning to their vision and perfecting their message. So where we left off, Vince, was you said, if it ain't broke, break it. Yeah. So how are we going to address this?
So that actually, first of all, I want to give credit where credit is due. Former chairman of the Joint Chief of Staff, Colin Powell, I was a huge fan of his, and he gave a speech, and that was one of the things he said was, if it ain't broke, break it. Yeah. And the context of that was in doing things, not in war. So, but he said, essentially look at process. How do you make things better? How do you, think about it while things are good? And I think that leads to the second part of what we're talking, because we were talking about retention, right? So we want to retain people. So we go to them because we think there's a problem, and culturally, and we want to fix and improve. Terrific. But there's also good cultures, or there are also good cultures where things are running well. Yeah. And, an entrepreneur is doing a fantastic job. The people are happy. But do we ever ask ourselves, isn't that the right time? And shouldn't we be asking now, well, what's next? And how do we improve that? I mean, do you come across that with the folks that you coach and the businesses that you work, where it's good, but they still are willing to ask that question now? How can we do a better job by our employees and keep them?
Yeah, so that's where the visionaries come into play, because they're working on their business and they're always looking down the road. Like, how do we grow this? How do we get this down the road? One of the things that relative to retention is people desire two things. They need to be seen and they need to be heard. So what I find in the most successful businesses where it's like ain't broke is that their employees are being heard. They feel heard. When they have an idea, they have an avenue for them to bring this great idea to. They're not just shut down, or they don't feel like, they're not going to like it. They're going to listen to it. So they keep their ears open and they listen to what the employee says. And they elevate the employee and give them skin in the game. When they're involved in what's going on, it makes them better. And they want to give more back to the company because they're being heard and seen. And because they feel validated, heard, and seen, they're not going to go anyplace else. Even if people offer them more money, highly statistically unlikely for anybody to move if they feel comfortable, they feel seen, they feel heard, because they feel appreciated. And that's really what we're looking at. So you're talking about companies who get that, who see their employees, who hear their employees. These are the companies we work with, who we set new goals for. So a company like the one I spoke about, where they wanted to do more. So they wanted to reduce their carbon footprint. So we decided to go to the Arbor Association and buy trees. And one of the specifications by the employees were those trees had to stay in America. They had to stay here. They couldn't go someplace else because there were a lot of programs out there that would put trees in other countries, but they wanted it here. So it went down to Mississippi and, believe it or not, the Jersey Shores, because they had just been hit by a hurricane. Those kind of programs you can put in. Talking to the employees, one of the other programs we put in with another large company, speaking on a monthly basis with employees to get their feedback, constantly having an avenue where they can put it's almost like a suggestion box, but it's a meeting that they can attend and they can bring their ideas. How can we make this better? Processes and lack of SOP, standard operating procedures, are among one of the highest levels of frustration. It's like, well, they don't know what they're doing, or there's no process, or so setting up these processes makes it better. So making each process better, and we're better to ask. I kind of go back to what my dad used to say. If you want to be a good CEO, CVO, you need to work in your warehouse. You need to work in every department in your organization so that you really see what the day-to-day is. And in this case, in this particular company's case, they went back to the employees and they asked them, what do you see? What can we do better? How can we do it better? We know we're running here really well, but how do we take it to the next level? What are you seeing?
So it wasn't broken and they broke it. They were willing to ask, let's break this. What else, what else is there? I like that. I think your dad had a great insight in that, you've got to go in there and be part of it and do it. I think the other part that comes out of that, you build a relationship with people, you create that continuity, right? So I wanted to ask, do you find that for those successful entrepreneurs and companies that do this process, does it become reflexive? Does it become something they do with regularity? Going back to people and saying, all right, let's look at this. What are we, is there something we're missing? How are we doing here? Or what's not working?
They have monthly meetings. What I recommend, in a lot of cases, what I see is they have monthly meetings where they say, okay, how can we do this better? What do you have? It's not just a talking heads meeting where the executives, the C-suite, as we call them, are doing all the talking, or your manager does all the talking. They take part of that meeting and turn it around and say, okay, how can I serve you better? I see these CEOs, I see these managers trying to serve their population, which is their team. How can I serve you better? How can I make your life easier so that your job is easier so you could produce more? Because if I make you happy and you can produce more, what happens? Both sides win. Right. It makes the team stronger. It builds the unity within it. And again, it makes people go, ooh, I would never leave here. I just spoke to somebody recently and I was like, are you interested in moving to another company? And they went, absolutely not. I'd never leave here. I'm gonna die working in this company. I'm like, why? And it's because they're seen, they're heard, they listen to their feedback. They don't do everything that they recommend, but they're listening and they feel valued. And
I was going to say, when you have employees that feel that way, it's very funny. If you ask them the question, do you want more money? We're all going to answer yes, human nature, right? We work hard and we want more money. But the question is, do you want to leave the organization to go get it? Well, no, I really like my job.
Yeah.
When you're getting that kind of feedback, that buy-in, that I'm part of something, you've got a retention plan. You are re-upping the people that are most valuable to you, the people you have right now.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
And people don't really like change, right? They don't like change. I happen to feel more comfortable being uncomfortable, but that's, because I've learned that that's where I'm growing. But a lot of people don't like that. They want to stay in that environment. They like it. So don't give them an excuse by not creating an environment that and allows them to be the best they can be. A lot of times what happens is leaders put you in a box and say, oh, you could do this. And you don't see all the other layers to that onion, to that human, they have other talents and tools. So one of my most successful CEOs of a rather large firm on Long Island, the reason why he's successful is he spends 1 hour every day walking into a different department, learning more about the employees. He has a very, very large group of employees, and it's really hard for him to stay on top of it. But don't you know, he knows everybody by first name, and he'll know something a little bit. Oh, how's your cat doing? How's your son? Hey, did you win that baseball game I know you went to the other day? he knows those little things. And I actually have another